Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Comm. Delighted to be joined in the Hotline studio by the gruesome twosome, the Neville brothers, the Cray twins. It's Keith Jackson and Scott McDermott. Guys, how's it going?
Aye, all right. I just wish that we've been able to broadcast for the last 10 minutes there, because we've just had classic Craig Swan unzipped. And I'm in bits.
The man himself. Swanee, live all the way from Celtic Park.
Oh, man.
Swanee, how's it going?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. How are you?
Look, you're all professional now that the viewers are watching.
Oh, he's got his Sunday voice on and everything.
Hotline Live's a professional product.
Get real. Give the punters what they want, Swanee.
Swanee, you're obviously at Celtic Park. You've been listening to Brendan Rodgers today at the head of Celtic versus Bayern Munich tomorrow night. Massive game. How was Rodgers? Was he in good form?
Yeah, he was in good form. I think he's, like everybody else connected with Celtic, he's really excited and looking forward to the game. It's a massive challenge for Celtic. Everyone knows that, but this is where Celtic want to be. This is what they fought for through the first 8 games. Try and get themselves into the position to play one of the... I know they wanted to play one of the big guns, but maybe not as testing as this at this stage to get another chance to progress. But listen, there's absolutely nothing to not look forward to ahead of the game on Wednesday night. It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere, a fantastic occasion, a fantastic game. So, yep, I think he's as excited as anybody else, but obviously with a professional head on, looking at ways he can get a result for Celtic.
I mean, I've got some comments lined up, guys. I don't know if you want me to hit you with them immediately, but the Celtic fans are coming across as quite optimistic. I mean, Lynn here saying there's no reason why Celtic can't win this at home. The boys will be up for it. Mark here's a wee dig as well. Bayern Munich and Old Queen's Park. It's going to be a tough night. Having the world-class Maeda back is huge. And Keith, that obviously came out last night, that he's had his ban reduced to 1 game. He'll play tomorrow night, Dyson Maeda. That is massive for Celtic. Yeah,
it's funny that point there, though. I was thinking that myself. If anything ever illustrated the size of the gap, and people always argue, what is the size of the gap? How far in front of Celtic? Celtic are just about to face Bayern Munich for a place in the last 16 of the Champions League a couple of days after Rangers get knocked out of the Scottish Cup at Queen's Park. That is the gap. That's where it's at. In terms of Maeda, that is just sensational news. In fact, see, when you look at it, if the team can perform on the pitch, if they can play the same kind of blinder that the club has played behind the scenes with the beaks at UEFA over the last week or so, you know what? There might be a chance for them here, because, not only have Celtic managed to get a victory in terms of away fans can go to the Allianz next week, and I don't think many of us expected that was going to happen. All of a sudden, last night, out of nowhere, a magic Dyson Maeda back into selection was incredible. And I think Brendan Rodgers explained it at the press, or Swanee can talk us through it, but he said that, Celtic weren't made aware of what the written report was for the reason of the 2-game suspension. And I think one of the words that was used was assault. And as soon as they saw that, they thought, we've got a case here. And they fired off a letter and they made their appeal, and it's been, overturned. Maeda is now available, and that is a superb break for Brendan Rodgers, who now has an increase of options for how he shapes up his final third against Bayern Munich. And, it goes without saying, and I know that he kind of made a joke. He says, well, I've just realised I've ran the legs off him for the last 3 games, kind of anticipating that he wasn't going to be available. Dyson Maeda will be one of the first names in that team sheet, whether it's as a central striker or playing out on the left-hand side, which I think it probably will be. But yeah, it's brilliant news. And it just, something maybe just gives you a little bit of a feel-good factor, maybe a bit of momentum or a head start going into this double header against Bayern. Little breaks like that can sometimes play a really significant role. I think Celtic can go into this game not expecting to win. I know that Cal McGregor says they're probably going to have to win in order to get through the tie to have any realistic chance. He's probably right. But you know what? I think if Celtic can take a draw from this first leg over to Germany, keep it alive, their own fans are going to be there, it keeps them in it. And I think that's kind of the first target for tomorrow night. Just stay in it, stay in the tie.
Swanee, it does raise that as Keith touched on there, the possibility that we could have Maeda through the middle, Jota on the left, Kuhn on the right. I mean, do you think that's likely, or do you think Brendan Rodgers is likely to stick with either through the centre?
I suspect the shout will probably. I agree with Keith. I think Dyson Maeda straight in the team. I think Nicholas Kuhn plays. I suspect it'll be Adam Maeda. I just put that decision down to minutes and legs for Jota. Brendan Rodgers spoke about that today. When he was just asked in a general point about Jota, he just talked about game time, getting up to speed and that kind of thing, and that'll come. This is a massive, massive game where you really need to be on it and ready to go. And I don't think Jota's played enough football, really. I agree that Dyson Maeda through the middle would give Celtic fantastic option in there. It's just his movement and his pace and his running ability and moving people about much in the way that Kyogo did. With two quick guys either side of him, I think that would be terrific. But it's a big ask, I think, for Jota to start a game like that. Now, he would have had to do so had this suspension not been reduced. But I think now that the option is there for Brendan Rodgers, I suspect Adam Maeda will get the shout. In fairness to Adam Maeda, scored 2 goals in the last Champions League game against Aston Villa. Yeah. So he probably feels as though he's entitled to get another crack at it. It's his opportunity to stake his claim. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers thought Maeda wasn't going to be available, therefore he'd have got a bit of a break in the weekend, but he'll be freshened up and ready to go. So I would expect it to be him, but I've got these team selections wrong in the past.
I think the Hurricane really took you there.
These team selections wrong, I don't know why you ask us.
I mean, Keith Scott, he makes a fair point, doesn't he? I mean, Jota's barely started the game this season, isn't it? I think it was 3 while he was at Rennes.
No, look, I think Swanee's right. Maeda through the middle probably suit Brendan Rodgers more in terms of how he wants to play the game, with intensity and speed and pressing. I think Maeda centrally would be absolutely key to how Rodgers wants to go about it. But as Swanee says, Jota's just know the minutes, and to put him into a game like that, where Celtic are going to need to start fast, it might be a wee bit too much to ask. So I think he probably will go with Ida, and then you maybe looking after an hour, because he's going to ask Ida to run the legs off Bayern's defence if he can for an hour, you would have thought, and then that change will probably come, and you'd expect it to be for Ida. Jota gets his run out on the left, and then Maeda gets switched.
That's exactly
centrally.
You just tell Big Ida to get out there, go up against their centre halves, give them as uncomfortable a 60 minutes as you can. Do your tank in, empty it, and then that's the change. The change is you put Maeda through the middle and you put Jota on and you say to Jota, look, you've got half an hour. They're tired. They're nowhere near as sharp as they were at the start. What can you do in that half hour?
Because Maeda's got the same energy after 60 minutes as he had.
He doesn't stop.
Anyway. Do you know what I mean?
The thing is, as well, is that Swanee, is that we go now from a massive match against Bayern Munich, where no harm to him as a player. He's obviously a top player, but Yang would have been playing a very significant role, and it's now Maeda that's playing that role. I mean, that is the jump in quality there is huge.
Yeah, it's just levels, isn't it, Daniel?
I don't think he would have, though, Swanee, would he? I mean, I know we're saying it's not ideal that Jota's not a lot of game time, but if that was the circumstance, Jota would have started.
But Yang would
have been the backup.
He'd have played half an hour at least, wouldn't he? You'd have thought.
Possibly.
Certain Jota would probably have been pushed into start.
Yeah.
Had Maeda not been available tomorrow night, I think that's what happened. I don't know, I can't read Brendan Rodgers' mind, but I suspect Jota would probably have got the nod first for the starting lineup. As I say, it's just levels. Yang's come in, he's done his best, he's done his bit, he's pitched in, but we're at a level of football now where it takes something that's shown a little bit more than what Yang has shown so far. It's like you can take nothing away for Yang's industry, his effort, but just that elite quality at that level. Jota's on a different plane in that respect.
I thought you were going to say something there, Keith, sorry.
No, I was waiting on you.
Yang, just on Swanee's point there, I mean, Brendan Rodgers was asked about Yang after the game on Saturday, about whether he'd kind of put himself in contention to start against Bayern Munich, and I think Brendan Rodgers' answer told you everything. He just kind of took a pause and said, well, he'll certainly be in the squad. So I don't think he was ever going to start against Bayern Munich, no matter what.
See, before we let you go, Swanee, because I can tell, obviously, it's it looks roasting where you are, but we'll let you go in a moment.
Actually, not too bad with the cold, Daniel. It's the fact this microphone stand keeps looking as though it's going to blow off. It's not just me. Underneath, it's typical Swan. The legs are going underneath trying to stop this thing from falling down.
Well, let me throw this at you before we let you get up.
Not the first time you've had a wobbly tripod.
No, it's not. The first time I've had wobbly legs in a European trip.
That's usually that's the night before the game.
Normally away from home, right?
I'm going to stay away from home. Jerry Celtic says, all the German press are saying that Bayern only need to show up. Even the legends are saying it. I hope they believe it. Brendan should pin these stories to the dressing room wall. Swanee, look, it's Bayern Munich. We know that. They've got some of the best players in the world in their team. But look, they did lose away to Feyenoord. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a classic Bayern Munich team. Celtic can get, certainly at home, they can get a result tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, I think Bayern have lost all the games they've been out of Germany this season, is that right? Feyenoord, Aston Villa, Barcelona.
Right.
That does sound right, Swanee.
Shakhtar was played in Germany, I think. So, listen, we can always be guilty of this as you get, the closer you get to these ties, fans' expectation and hope and, really builds, and nobody wants to dilute that. Celtic fans should turn up hopeful and really dreaming of a massive performance. You've got to pour some realism in there as well. But I'm Munich are top of the Bundesliga, top team. And if Celtic, as Keith says, if they can show anything like they did in the Leipzig game, and it's going to take that and more, and they can do enough to at least get a draw at the game, keep the tie alive for going to Germany, that's a terrific effort. You have to be honest about it. That's you're starting to face it now. So I think if Celtic can do that, fight, scrap, play some real quality football like they did against Leipzig. And listen, Scott and I were at that Leipzig game. Celtic were terrific that night. And if they do that again, but that's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
And if they can do that, they can get something and, to take them into the second leg. But it's going to need that. And everybody has to be realistic about it because it's a huge challenge.
The ideal scenario, Swanee, is because this is a kind of landmark milestone game in this knockout phase of the Champions League, where it's been 12 years or whatever it's been. So you just know you're guaranteed the atmosphere, right? The place is going to be absolutely electric. It's probably going to go up a couple of notches for anything we've seen so far this season.
Yeah.
That atmosphere, that electricity, it brings its own sort of life form to Celtic Park. It enables Celtic players to bring their percentage levels up. I don't know, 5, 10, I don't know how you quantify it, but something magical. It's like a weird chemistry goes on.
Yeah,
on these occasions.
So the game Real Madrid under Ange Postecoglou.
Exactly right. Exactly, and I think you're going to get something similar there.
Wednesday to being like.
Yeah, and I think Swanee. Yeah, so if you're looking for the dream scenario for Celtic, it is that ferocious intensity from the stands in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the match. If Celtic could get off to a fly and get a goal in that period of the game, well, it's sheer, craziness all around it. That could take everything to a different level again, and then all of a sudden, Bayern Munich, do you fancy this? What's going on? They'll be looking about, going, where are we here? What is this?
I totally agree, but
it's going to require something like that.
It does, but without that to dampen it, you're right about the Real Madrid game, but they lost that game 3-0. No. And that could happen.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
They could start absolutely.
So what I'm saying is, if you can build on that crazy start, the kind of high intensity, the fervour, and get yourself in front at that point. We've seen it with Rangers in the Europa League when Ibrox was bouncing on Thursday nights, and Rangers would, more often than not, actually, in some of these games, they go off to a fly and get a goal, and then the whole momentum builds from there. Yep. But Celtic, what I'm saying is, against anybody in the Champions League, that would be a great set of circumstances, and you still don't know if you're going to come out at the end of the game with the points or with the win. But Celtic's best chance of doing something monumental tomorrow night, I think, would be a dream scenario start to the match like that. But either way, it's going to be an occasion. Celtic just need to hang in it. If they can't get off to a flyer, if they might have long spells without possession, long spells when they're just chasing after people. But if they can just keep themselves in the game, keep it intense, keep to a high tempo, I think the chances are Bayern Munich get the result that they came for. But I do not rule out Celtic doing something here. Maybe getting a draw, a 2-2 draw. I'm going to tip for it, and that keeps the second leg interesting and really alive.
Swanee, I don't know if I'll get a chance to ask you again beforehand, but what's your prediction for tomorrow?
I am going to copy Keith. Yeah, I think
use her at it. Use her at it.
Yeah, I think it could be 2-2. I'm hoping that Celtic can come out, show their best, and go toe to toe with Bayern Munich. And if they can get, like I say, if they can get a result, a draw would be. It's not what Celtic fans want. They want to win the game, obviously, but I'm trying to be realistic here. If Celtic can go out and show themselves and keep this tie alive, and I think there could be goals. Celtic have shown they can score in this competition, this season. So, yep, 2-2.
Swanee, thanks so much for joining us on the Hotline Live. I know you've been battling against the wind there. We'll let you get up the road. Thank you very much for joining us.
Up the road, Bayern Munich starts at 7:30. I'm not sitting with teacups in my house like you.
Are we in decent work then, Swanee?
I know. Hanging about.
I know. Right, we'll tell you what, we'll get you back on in a couple of hours, right?
Aye, that's what I do. Aye.
Right,
I'll
thanks,
get a
Swanee.
report for the Emirates Arena and the cycling.
To be fair, that's about the only sport you've not covered in the last couple of months.
That's a fair point, right? No, Swanee, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Cheers now, right.
Cheers, Swanee.
The one and only Craig Swanee. Look, one of the points just on in fact, before we go any further, Scott, I'm going to go out on a limb. Are you saying 2-2 as well?
No, I think Bayern will win narrowly. I do think there'll be goals. I think it might be 2-1 Bayern. I just think it's... Listen, I get that the atmosphere will be electric and no...
You said no to 2-2 with so much conviction there, and then in your next breath said maybe 2-1. Like, no, there's no chance it's got to be 2-2.
2-1's a big difference for 2 each.
It's one goal.
2 each would be a brilliant result. But no, I just think they'll lose. I think ultimately they'll lose the game. Bayern, I just think in the forward areas are too strong, Daniel. They're still not entirely convinced about Celtic defensively. And you think of the threats that Bayern have got, Musiala and Kane and
yeah, they are decent.
Gnabry and people. I mean, I think. Listen, the atmosphere will play a part, and I do think Celtic got a bit of luck tonight. As Keith said, if they score early, look, they might get something. I just think over 90 minutes, Bayern's quality's got to tell, and I think it'll be too big an ask for them.
One area though, Keith, that I think is worth pointing out. I mean, Mark here says the Champions League under the lights, there's genuinely nothing like it. Bayern players are in for a shock. Look, I'm sure Bayern players have played in most atmospheres, but I would contest that Celtic definitely have the more experienced manager and the better manager. And I think that could be crucial over this two-legged tie. Yeah,
listen, again, you kind of have to caveat that by saying we're the greatest manager in the world, but a manager, I hate to say he's only as good as the players he's got. He's not. Sometimes they can put them together to create something that's bigger than the sum of the parts. But yeah, I think that if you were to ask Brendan Rodgers what squad he'd rather be managing to this tie, I think it's a fairly obvious answer. Of course it is. Yeah. I mean, just Harry Kane, just that's all you really need to say, isn't it? That's the guy that's going to be bringing it to Celtic's defenders tomorrow night, and that's a fairly frightening thought. We've all seen what Harry Kane is capable of doing for many a long year. Yeah, look, Brendan Rodgers' nous and experience, his tactical smarts, you're hoping that can help Celtic and again do something to give them that extra edge. But you're saying there in terms of the Bayern players, they are experienced. They've sampled just about everything that football can throw. But see, as reporters, Scotty, we've been to grounds. We've been to grounds all over Europe. We've been in these atmospheres. We've sampled it for ourselves. I'm telling you now, Celtic Park on a Champions League night, there's a rawness and an energy to it that you don't often come across any place else. And it is an electric sort of atmosphere. You can almost feel it pulsating around the place. It's different. It's a different experience. Yes, I get it. They've played Borussia Dortmund away and they've played big teams in England, and But I'm telling you, there's just something different about Celtic Park, and it's a factor that you can't completely dismiss, even though I agree these guys have been there, seen it, done it, and kind of they're well used to playing on big stages in front of big crowds.
Also, the other thing is, I mean, you're saying it's difficult for Bayern players going to Celtic Park, and I agree with Keith. The atmosphere is different, especially in a Champions League night. I tell you, but it's also daunting going to that Allianz Arena to play Bayern when they're at it. I mean, probably similar to our kind of most recent experience going there with Scotland. I mean, see if a game gets on top of you. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult
before you know it's gone.
I mean, it's...
And there was a little bit of that for Celtic and Dortmund as well. So, listen, these are the pitfalls and the potential issues that you're going to face when you're playing against this level of side at this stage in the best club competition in football. That's why you want to be there. That's why you set out. That's why Brendan Rodgers returned to the club, because he said this is where he wanted to take Celtic. And now it's interesting going back to Germany in the same season when that horror story of a night against Borussia Dortmund. How far have they come since then? Now we've seen it step by step. I think I said it from the night that they got the draw in Atalanta. I felt that looked like a coming of age performance from Celtic in the Champions League. Totally stand by it. Everything that I've seen since then suggests that is the case. So now that they've come of age, now that they've come through this experience, and it was a bit of a mess in Dortmund, how does it look in Munich? And I think we're going to get a good. And Brendan Rodgers, he doesn't want to say it's a gauge. He's saying, you can see that we've progressed. But I think that is ultimately a real gauge. That was how it looked early in the season. How does it look now? And I think you'll find that Celtic are a far stronger, more competitive team at this level because of changes that Brendan Rodgers said he wouldn't make, but he has made.
I do think as well, I know it's just the way it's structured, the seeding and stuff, but the fact that Celtic and most Scottish clubs, they're always away from home in the second leg. I just think psychologically, even the way we're talking about this, Ty, Celtic can keep it alive. See if Celtic can go in the first leg and keep it alive, and then the second leg at Celtic Park, that would make such a massive difference, I think. Yeah,
as long as you're still in the tie, obviously. Do you know what I mean? I agree. I mean, listen, there's arguments for both, I think, but I would always tend to prefer the second leg at home, as you say, because you know what you need to do. You know about the atmosphere. Gives you that little bit extra. So I agree. I mean, it is tough to have the first leg knowing. Jack will say that. I think Celtic need to win the game to have any chance of getting through. They need to win at Celtic Park, which is a massive pressure because, as I say, going to the Allianz, Bayern away, it must be one of the most daunting prospects in European football, if not the most daunting. So it's a massive challenge for them. I think overall, when you looked at the draw, whether it was Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, you kind of knew, this will probably be the end of the road. But Swanee touched on it. That's what happens as you get closer to the game. There's a wee bit of fervour starts. The atmosphere is going to be electric. So you start to kind of believe that they might actually get something. But I just don't think you can underestimate the quality in this Bayern team. I mean, they think, they expect to go in and win this tournament, never mind this tie. Yeah. They want to go and win the Champions League. That's the level you're up against. So
yeah, but I tell you another wee thing that might count in Celtic's favour, right? If we're allowed to buy into this idea that anything can happen. You're right, the Allianz is some place to go to. I'm not sure how much of a bear pit it is when Bayern are turning up against Scotland's champions, expecting to walk through into the later stages of the... Now, if it was Real Madrid that was turning up there, yes. If it was Scotland turning up there for the opening game of the home tournament, yeah. But, you've got to hope, you've got to try and hope that a whole range of factors come into play, because that's what our clubs need at this level. You need a whole range of good fortune, various factors, and if a bit of complacency is allowed to creep into to the Bayern side of things, then that enhances Celtic's chances again. So they've got a break. 2 breaks so far before the ball's been kicked. Away fans are going to be in Germany. Maida's going to be in the starting lineup. Now, how many more lucky breaks, how many more lucky rolls of the dice can you get? Because the more the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Marzuno chips in, if Queen's Park can win at Ibrox, and I think that brings us nicely to our daily Philippe Clement catch-up. I mean, Scott, Keith and I have kind of talked us to death over the last...
What are we going to call it? Philippe Clement?
Clementathon. But Keith and I have talked it to death, but we've not really had your take on it, Scott. I mean, it certainly looks like...
And do you know what, Daniel? Do you know what I find really interesting about this? And do you know what I'm really looking forward to? Was it not this time last week, I was sat next to Scott in this studio and I was saying, oh, you were away. That's right, you were away. Scott wrote a column last week. Let me bring you up to speed, along with anybody else that happens to be watching right now. Scott wrote a column last week in which he said, Rangers are lucky to have Philippe Clement. And the board should be really grateful that he's still in position.
It's good you've got Scott, a meal like that.
Over to you. Give us an update on where you are with that right now.
It just shows you, Daniel, it just shows you a week is a long time. A week is a long time in Scottish football.
Scottish journalism.
No, I stand by it. No, listen, in all seriousness,
Rangers are lucky to have him.
I said last week the Rangers fans should be grateful that Philippe Clement hung around in the summer because, I've said it many times, the goalposts were moved. I think promises were probably broken. I think you probably had the chance to leave. And when you look at Rangers' budget...
They'd moved the goalposts at the weekend. Some of the 30 shots might have went in.
Might have, aye. Need rugby posts, I think. So the restraints that were kind of put on him, the changes that were, the conditions that he worked under, I said last week, I don't think any Rangers manager in the club's history has had to put up with that. And I stand by that. However, there's obviously a massive caveat, and that is a Rangers manager cannot lose must-win games. They cannot lose against lower league opposition in the cup at home when the cup's your only chance of silverware. And I think Sunday, unfortunately for Philippe Clement, Sunday crossed a line with Rangers supporters. Any support that he did have, and I think a lot of them, were clinging on to this kind of big picture idea. I think they were delighted to get in the top 8 of the Europa League straight through to the last 16. I think they could see in the likes of Egaman and Jeffy and even Raskin and Inciala and people like that, they were almost prepared to kind of look ahead and look to that kind of big picture and think the future might be a bit brighter. But there's just no coming back for that result on Sunday, I don't think. If I'm being honest, I'm surprised he's still in a job just now. And that was me saying a few weeks ago that I fully expected him to be in until the end of the season. But
7 days ago.
But you cannot underestimate the size of that result. And also, I don't think Clement helped himself again. Not just in terms of the team's performance. The players let him down, for the first time, but it was him that put them out there. A few of his changes or a few decisions he made, especially, Keith spoke about it earlier, with taking Yanis Hadji off when he's your most creative player and probably the best chance at a goal.
And he seemed to make that decision in anger.
Yeah.
And that would worry me.
After a misplaced pass.
That would be one of the most concerning things. If I was in charge of deciding, do you stick or twist with this guy? If I see a manager on the sidelines making decisions based on anger, and bad decisions based on anger, making the wrong decision based on anger, then I don't know. That would need to, and that feeds into what is being described now quite rightly, probably as the worst result in Rangers history.
Yep.
And you're looking at your manager making decisions which are contributing to that. Then I don't think there's really a decision left to be made at boardroom level. It astonishes me that here we are. And by the way, do you know who's the best time of this since Sunday? Well, I don't know, but I'm assuming that they still pay the guy that handles the Rangers Twitter account. Not a post since Sunday. It's just gone radio. Says, take a couple of days off, son. Paid leave. The silence is absolutely deafening.
Yep.
And I don't know, Scott, I think you're probably more plugged into this than me, but I actually think this silence, where the Rangers fans were already angry, I can feel anger levels getting... They're actually... The fact that nobody has come out to speak to them, to show any sort of leadership or direction at this moment of complete and utter crisis, I think just takes a bad situation and injects steroids into it.
It's incredible that Patrick Stewart or Fraser Thornton hasn't come out and spoke after the weekend and tell fans. And by the way, see if that's telling fans
We're sticking.
We're standing by him, then so be it.
Well,
Explain why.
On that, Scott, look, we've had this comment and we got sent in a few times last night and I didn't read it out because it might just be one of those apocryphal rumours, but Patrick Stewart got caught in the hospitality after the game. He told fans that Clement will be judged by the end of the 2026 season. I've seen that 3 times now. Whether or not that's true, right, and it might not be, the fact that things like that can spread and grow because no one's saying anything is quite damning. I mean, and as well, Paul here saying if Rangers lose Tynecastle on Sunday, there's going to be 250 fans at the next home game, the way things are going. And just simply saying you've got to wonder what the board's thinking. It is crazy. It feels like
you've got to wonder what they're thinking because they're no telling.
Exactly.
The fans have had enough, Daniel. I mean, I know that might sound obvious, but after Sunday, I think it's gone to a new level. No, and by the way, it's not just the actual result on Sunday. It's no, these fans can't take any more humiliation. I don't think. I mean, the rivals on the other side of the city are laughing at them. I mean, the Scottish Cup. If Rangers had won the Scottish Cup this season and got to the last 8 of the Europa League Cup final defeat on penalties, and granted, far behind Celtic in the league. I'm not saying they'd have been happy, but they would have looked at it and says, right, okay, Clement starts the next season. There's enough there to think.
Enough there to make an argument for him.
It might be getting a bit better. That has gone now. I mean, that has completely gone.
But see even on that as well, Keith, I wanted to kind of, you made a point last night that's been playing on my mind. I mean, John says here the Rangers team should have come flying out the traps on Sunday knowing that it was virtually their last chance of silverware instead of pedestrian. The point you made just there, Keith, was about the fact that when did it become acceptable that, look, if you can still win the Scottish Cup, that's enough? I can remember seasons where it was like, oh, they can only
that's a sacking offence.
Aye.
In the environment where we all live in Scottish football, for Celtic and Rangers, it's a perennial 2-horse race for whatever silverware's available. And it used to be, not all that long ago, that if one of those managers come out at the end of the season just holding a Scottish Cup, he's got a real problem on his hands trying to justify his position for the start of the following season.
But this is a disease, Daniel, that has riddled Rangers for far too long now, this acceptance of second best. And I said that last week, I said it this week as well. And if the board don't make a decision on Philippe Clement now and he stays in the role, I would ask, what message does that send to the players, especially the young players? You like your Jefties and Egamans and Bailey Rices and Raskins, people like that. If you basically send out a message to these players that losing to Queen's Park at home and going out the Scottish Cup
doesn't
another
carry
season,
a consequence. If
there's no consequences to that, then I'm sorry, you've got a problem for the next 3, 4, 5 years, because if they think that's acceptable, that's no Rangers. That Rangers can't operate like that. And that's why I think there's obviously massive pressure, and that's why we're so surprised that they've not come out and said it.
You're right, it's about addressing the whole culture. But the whole culture has... And Rangers play second fiddle on just about every level compared to Celtic. From the boardroom down, they're just getting beaten at every turn in every department of the football club.
Yep.
And that's where they're at. And that's why I've been saying for some time, something really fundamental is going to be required to have any chance of even getting close to a level playing field. But the kind of way it's tilting just now is just they're playing up the side of a mountain.
And listen, I feel for Clement. I'm going to stick up for him slightly, Daniel, just to kind of cover myself for last week's column. But as I touched on, I think he's been more harshly treated than any Rangers manager, certainly in my lifetime, in terms of what he's had to deal with. You think back to the start of the season, getting hit with the whole Ibrox shambles, and then getting told the budget's cut and he's got to get rid of big earners and sign guys cheap. even in the January window, not being able to bring him in. No,
And then the sports scientists demanding to pick the team.
right.
I mean, it's what a hard shift the guys had.
Couldn't they afford Lyle Cameron in the January window? I mean, we're talking about potentially sacking Philippe Clement. There's figures being bandied about what it's going to cost them. I mean, how are they going to pay for that if they can't afford 200-300 grand maybe to get Lyle Cameron?
So this is a thing. This is a thing, right? This is a because we see the comments coming in. Celtic fans are convinced that the only reason that Rangers are stuck to this is they're tethered to Clement because they simply don't have the cash to make the change. That they're already paying for 2 previous disastrous managerial appointments, people still on gardening leave, and that the money is simply not there, which means that Rangers just have to bite their bottom lip and go on with it.
I also wonder...
Rangers say that's not the case.
Yeah.
But where are you on that?
I was just going to say, just kind of on that point, I also wonder, and I don't know what you think of this, Philippe Clement always sounds very confident that he won't lose his
He's Teflon.
job.
He's totally Teflon.
That makes me think, have certain assurances been made at the start of the season? Have promises been made given the circumstances in the summer? So is it almost like a kind of gentleman's agreement that nothing happens until the end of this season? I mean, that it would surprise you in modern football if that something like that was in
even
place,
if there was some sort of verbal agreement in place, you would have to say that, you know, we reserve the right to make a change of heart if you get beat at home by Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup.
Patrick Stewart did say in his media briefing no one was safe.
He couldn't give a guarantee, he said.
Yeah.
But here we are.
I know.
It's Tuesday night. This happened on Sunday. There's going to be no change ahead of the weekend. And so what if Rangers go and get beat with Hearts at Tynecastle? If you're not going to bullet a guy for losing at home to Queen's Park and losing your last chance of silverware, you ain't going to bullet him for losing 3-0 to Hearts at Tynecastle. So
fair point.
On and on it goes.
And look, if the board have decided we are sticking with this guy no matter what, because this is a project. We got him in a long
roll up for next season tickets under Big Phil.
That's a problem. But if they feel no, we are sticking to our guns. We've sacked too many managers. It's a long-term project. He's added value to the squad with his recruitment, which is undoubted. With Jeff the Eagerman or whatever. Here's the reasons why we're sticking by him. The fans won't be happy with it, but at least come out and say it. You'd almost admire. Be honest with them. Exactly. You'd almost admire them for saying, "Well, look, they're sticking to their guns."
A bit of transparency, a bit of openness, and a bit of honesty. At this point in time, after the humiliation and all the ordeals the Rangers supporters have been through, that is actually the very least that they deserve or that's required from the people that are in charge of the club. At the very least, all the suffering, all the kind of pain of these defeats, all these years of underachieving, the very least is that they should be spoken to like adults and told the truth.
Because as you
and not kept in the dark.
Season tickets are up for renewal, I think, in 2 months, about 8 weeks' time. I think crowds are dwindling already.
Oh, they are.
Ibrox, you can see it. And that's only going to get worse if in the next couple of months. If Clement's still in a job and the results.
But the only way that you keep attendances up now, because bear in mind you've got 3-4 months now of domestic football that doesn't matter.
Yep.
None of these games matter. Not a game of any consequence.
No.
So of course that's going to impact on the attendances. Of course it is. People are going to go away and find other things to do on a Saturday afternoon. The only move that I can see that's available to the board right now is to make a change, say, here's my new guy, this is why we've brought him in, and try and get behind it and see, and is this new guy, is it different, is this more attractive football? That'd keep your attendances up. Yep. If the Rangers fans were given a reason, I keep referring to them now as Jam Tomorrow FC because that's what they are, but it would be another example of that. But if the Rangers fans ain't daft, they'll turn up and they'll get behind it if they think, oh, this is going to work, this is more progressive, this is positive, there's something to get behind here. But there's nothing to get behind. They're just watching a lame duck waddling towards the finishing line. I
just wonder where they go, Jacko, though, if they do get rid of him. Because if finances are as tight as we're saying they are, it's going to cost them more money to relieve Clement of his duties. how did he go? How did he attract a manager? Certainly a foreign manager that's got a better pedigree or a better CV than Clement. I just don't see it unless they're going to go down a different route. Say a different route with a British manager. It's not so long ago they had Michael Beale. A Scottish manager, did he kind of change tact? Said a few weeks ago when I was trying to kind of back Clement that he started this project, he started the ball rolling. He really wants somebody brand new to come in and might want to rip it up, might want to change things. I suppose you could argue again that's where they've got a technical director in place now, Niels Koppen. Even if a new manager came in, it probably shouldn't take them off that path that they've started. That's the whole point of having a director of football, a technical director, is that you stay on that path. You just carries it on.
And it was the same with the manager when John Bennett gave a new contract to Clement. That's all well and good, and we get it. And here's the message, and the message is one of unity and stability, and everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet. That's brilliant. That's all well and good. If you have to be convinced that you're not handcuffing yourself to somebody that's going to drag you down.
Yeah.
That's what they did, effectively. It's added another bumper, couple of zeros in the end of a payoff check for him. They've done the same with Niels Koppen. And there's very little, no evidence that he's the right guy in the right job either.
They've just given a Moroccan coach
3.5 year contract.
3.5 year contract
Now,
a week ago.
I have never heard of that. That is, I genuinely can't think of another example where somebody's come in and hired an assistant manager and put him on a 3.5 year contract. It's just, the decision making is unfathomable. And they keep making the same sort of mistakes. A 3.5 year contract for an assistant manager. That's staggering. Maybe they do. Maybe he's lined up as Clement's long-term replacement.
Who knows? Before we finish tonight, guys, I think I should say a big thank you to our guest producer, the one and only Kyle Gunn. It was joined by Molly Finlay tonight producing. Guys, it's been wonderful having you along for the ride. Keith, would you like to add anything to that?
I obviously had to. Kyle was telling me exactly how we had to do tonight's show, running me through the order, saying what I had to say. He wanted more St Mirren content.
No chance.
And I said, well, that'll be down to Daniel, and Daniel's not asked a single St Mirren question, so you should actually be ashamed of yourself, because I think Scott was certainly desperate, and I think Kyle was desperate to hear what Scott's take on St Mirren's nearest or latest near thing last night, which Kyle's still recovering from, really.
I had to work an hour and a half later last night because St Mirren conceded that goal. So they're in my bad books.
No, but Kyle's here, and he's as big a presence as he always has been, and it's great to have him around.
No. And listen, everyone else that's written in tonight, thank you so much. We really appreciate you getting involved in the conversation. As always, we'll be back to do it all again tomorrow night, but not at 6. We'll be back at 10 o'clock.
Oh, we're doing a late night shift tomorrow.
Bring your pyjamas, your cocoa.
Oh, man. Mind you, big game special.
Big game special.
I'm at the games, that mean I'm getting roped in.
Probably, aye.
That's great.
Rebel says double time, Daniel. Keith, can you help me out with that at all, Matt?
Scotty will just need to take a sleeping bag to the car park.
We'll be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow to talk over the reaction from Celtic's 2-1 win against Bayern Munich, which is
Steady.
Scott, Keith, thanks very much. Appreciate it as always.
No worries.
Cheers, Daniel.
And we'll be back tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.